Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jerry McGuire, founder of STARS, Stuttering Treatment and Research Society. I'm the host of our STARS podcast, STARS Speak, Understanding the Science of Stuttering, where voices are heard, understanding of stuttering grows, and awareness moves forward. Each episode features unscripted and honest conversations with researchers, clinicians, and individuals who stutter, dedicated to advancing the science, treatment, and understanding of stuttering, a field that frankly deserves greater attention, collaboration, and research. I am so happy and honored to be joined today by Maura Miles. Maura, just got to start. Hey, thank you for being part of this. You're one of our STAR's newest community advisors. I want to welcome you and tell us a little bit about yourself, Maura. How did you get interested in stuttering first?
Well, thank you, Dr. McGuire. How I stutter. And man, I've been stuttering. I don't know when I don't remember ever stuttering. I remember the first time I got made fun of for stuttering. And I think that's when I realized I stuttered. And that was like in third grade.
Third grade. Okay.
I remember I was in class and I had to read out loud, and some like three boys in my class made fun of me.
I'm sorry.
And like my teacher was trying to have them apologize in front of apologize and, have everyone know what they did was wrong, and then put all this attention on me. So that made it more and more embarrassing. And then I just have my head down and my eyes watery. But that was the first time I remember that I actually stuttered. And from that on, I just remember stuttering like all the time. I'm sure I stuttered before that, but that was like the first time I was like traumatized probably by my stuttering. But then from that point, it was just always a big deal. And I hated it, and it impacted my life in school, outside of school, and it would be like good and be bad. It was like a roller coaster. And then one day I somehow came upon you, and I made my mom and dad, I was like, I have to go see this man. And they were like, okay, let's go. And we saw you, and you like opened my eyes to a whole new world, that stuttering is a neurological disorder, and there's more than just speech therapy, which I was like, wow, like it's not just having to do with my speech. Like there's something up here that's happening. And I was just amazed by that. And then met you, and you're just amazing and so nice. And just knowing that like you can be so smart like you are and have this problem. And so I was just so happy to just know that I'm not alone, because we don't really meet a lot of us because we're so quiet and no one talks about it.
Thank you, Maura. Well, you're very bright too, and you've channeled your career into helping people as well. Why don't we tell us a little bit about what you do now? We met years ago, but what are you doing now, and how are you doing?
It's almost like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I'm a special ed teacher. I focus with moderate to like profound special needs. I've done pretty much every age group, from early childhood to like 22. Right now, I'm doing strictly autism. And I do special education specifically because I know what it's like to have something, and it's something that you can't control. Like I know what it's like to know my name and not be able to say it, and have people look at you and be like, oh, you don't know your name? I'm like, no, I do. I know my name. I just can't get my name out of my mouth. So I feel for parents and I feel for students that have special needs, even though my students might have a more severe, more severe challenges than what I have, obviously. But I do understand that the challenges they have, it's not something that they chose to have. It's not something that anyone chooses to have. And if I can help them in any way, I will help them. And, I just know that it's something that nobody chooses, nobody wants to do.
Well, thank you, Maura. It shows we look at, how stuttering can change us. You mentioned a couple things here. First, the trauma that you had. You remember that distinctly, being,
Mm-hmm.
bullied in school. Most of us, if not all of us, have experienced that. But then you also bring forward the level of empathy that you have. It's difficult I do believe one, I hate to say the benefit, but one thing is we do understand as people who stutter what it is to struggle and to be misunderstood. So you've channeled that into helping people,
Mm-hmm.
children, and their parents guide through things. Am I correct on that?
Oh, definitely. Like if I see somebody be mean to any of my students, I'm like a big mama bear,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to be around me. It's not a very pleasant sight.
But more, you can help us too, because some parents, you didn't know as a child what this was, and then when you learned, and as we're learning now, that stuttering is neurologically based. When you first learned it, how did that help you? You mentioned that that was a relief. Could you expand to that a little bit more? What that meant to you?
I think, like, growing up, I was in speech therapy my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to speech therapy. I was asking my mom the other day, I'm like, when I went to speech therapy, I didn't start for stuttering. And she's like, no. And I'm like, why'd I go? She's like, oh, I don't remember. But I went before, because, you start going um, before around the age of 3 if the school districts and like the parents see that there's a deficit in your child. And so I remember going with my mom, um, and I was like playing with like the speech pathologist and things like that. But I don't remember stuttering. I just remember playing with this lady, and I went with my mom, and she would like sit outside, but I don't remember why. And then I remember being in school and going, but I don't remember like stuttering. But I remember being traumatized in 3rd grade. But I also remember them, and then I remember from 3rd grade always stuttering from that point. But I remember them always telling me like, slow down, take a deep breath. And I hated that so
Mm-hmm.
much because, one, they don't stutter. Two, I have so much anxiety about what I'm going to say in general that when you tell me to slow down and take a deep breath, you're making me now think about what I'm going to say. So now you're giving me anxiety about what I'm going to say. So now there's this buildup of what is going to happen. So now it's kind of like making me, it's like pretty much making me stutter because I'm getting prepared to stutter, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes any sense. So, and then I don't think people realize that they're like, oh, you talk fast. But I felt like if I just kept flowing and talking,
Mm-hmm.
that I was comfortable and I was
Mm-hmm.
fine. But they were always telling me to stop. And I'm like, you don't understand because you don't do it. So how can you tell me to do something that you don't know and you're not in my brain and you don't get it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have what I have. You don't feel what I feel.
Yeah, and what you bring forward more is very it brings forward a lot of what we know. It elucidates a lot we know about speech. Is that with people who stutter, it's very hard for us to initiate the words or the phrase. But once we get going, we don't want to stop because it's flowing, and we do
Exactly.
understand neurologically why. It's like almost freezing the system in this region of the brain called the basal ganglia. And it's difficult. Once we get going, we don't want to stop. In fact, sometimes we run out of breath because we're just trying to get it. Am I correct? Sometimes we go, and I run out. I just can't keep it going. And people sometimes
Mhm.
would say to me, "Well, you interrupt." I'm like, "I was still going."
That's
Because
gotten me in trouble 100 times. People are like, God, she just interrupts. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be rude. But for somebody who has like spent their whole life being quiet and now I'm gonna like cry, is so happy that like you're finally accepting of who you are and that you can talk without being embarrassed. You're like, yeah, okay, fine. I do stutter. I do. And I'm gonna. So too bad, right?
right.
But I'm gonna talk and I'm gonna interrupt. But then now you're mad that I'm interrupting, but like you don't know how I feel that I'm just so proud of myself that I am talking. But
Right.
now you're mad that I'm interrupting and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying, but like you don't realize that I've gone through years of being quiet and I've been years of being silent. And now I'm so happy, but yet now I'm seen as rude or she interrupts or,
Mhm.
like, all she does is these things that people think are not appropriate, but they don't know the challenges that have happened in the past and the challenges that we still to this day are having to face because we're just so happy that like we're on a flow, and then they're like, oh well, they're mad at me, but I was just trying to talk without having a problem you know
Mhm. And it's neurologically based. When the words are going, we're still going.
and they don't care though.
I know. And there's still so much of the stigma and the discrimination because how
Very
much of
much
this
so.
world, more almost every job interview or every sort of performance evaluation
Haha.
includes verbal communication skills.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
to
much
me,
so.
that is a direct discriminatory act on those of us who stutter.
Yeah, but it's very hard to prove that.
You know, it is. But that's our goal here with STARS is to help people like you and me to understand that, hey, this is how our brains are wired. And
Mhm.
the rest of the world would want them to understand. So we don't face the stigma. And understanding the neural, and you're at our STARS meeting. We just had a meeting about putting together guidelines and so forth. There's a question that came up like, could we say that stuttering is a disorder, neurologic disorder, or neurologic condition? And you had some really good insights into that. Would you explain to me what
I
you're?
would say it's a disorder.
Hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with calling it a disorder. Some of our other colleagues wanted to call it a condition, but I personally consider it a disorder.
I
I
think you looked it up because you said a condition is a state of health,
mhm.
but a disorder is when something can be impairing. So we're
Well,
very
yeah, and it is an impairment of our speech. Um, and it's
hmm
always going to be an impairment of our speech. And
right.
it's something that we live with all the time.
Hmm.
And I think, we have to realize that, and everyone else needs to realize that too.
Yeah.
And we need to, you know, um, as like the title of your book, stop
Hmm.
living in hesitation and stop being silent about it.
Hmm.
Like, this is it. And if I'm going to have to interrupt everybody, so be it.
Yeah.
It is
But
a
that's part of it.
disorder.
Right, it is because that affords us accommodations potentially. It also means if it's not impairing to the individual, that's the other thing. If it doesn't impair the individual, they're not bothered by it, they're not facing any discrimination, they're doing great, then it's not a disorder. So it's a disorder technically if it leads to social avoidance, anxiety, impairing in our occupational functioning, which
Good
happens to
point.
almost all of us in schools. Or you've
Mm-hmm.
also done, as a special ed teacher, you're helping us with STARS and helping guide parents and even children about the benefits they should be entitled to within the educational system. Maybe explain a little bit for us, because we're going to begin a section of stars, right? And we're going to focus on you and your unique roles as being both a person who stutters and a special education teacher who understands how to navigate the tricky systems of the educational
Oh,
system and
it's
what
beyond
parents need to know.
tricky.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe explain that. Yeah, please.
the
Yeah.
education system is tricky to this day. I still learn things and am very shocked by what occurs. Uh, Technically speaking, if let's say a child, before they get into school, let's
Mhm.
say your child at the age of like 3, so they're not in kindergarten, and has some kind of stutter, and you think something's going on, you should contact your school district, and then you should get the child assessed by the school district. The child gets assessed. They will tell you if they see anything. Hopefully, you guys are both in agreement that there's something. They might say, oh, this is common because, kids that are young stutter, because that is a possibility. Okay.
Mhm.
But, let's say it's not. Then the child will start having speech therapy before they start school for
Mhm.
kindergarten. So they'll go before school. And that is what happens before. Then when they get into school is when they're going to start, like, whether or not they get an IEP or a 504. Now, I always had an IEP.
Mhm.
Okay. Now there's a difference between an IEP and a 504. I'm an IEP girl, which is an individualized education plan. And the reason you want an individualized education plan is because it's a legal document. It's a contract between the family and the school district. So if anything goes wrong, the school doesn't hold up its end of the bargain, the family can sue.
Mhm.
It's also providing educational services to the student, aka speech services. They have to provide speech services. Now, didn't necessarily say this. Let's say, hypothetically, the student is like severely depressed.
Mhm.
Okay. You could, I didn't know this, but like you could, now going back, you could argue that the child is severely depressed, suicidal. You could probably argue that your child needs mental health counseling.
Mhm.
So you could try to get that as a service
And
and
we
put
do
that
know that
into,
people who stutter do struggle. We do struggle with
yeah,
higher
because like,
rates of social anxiety,
yeah,
perhaps even depression. More
oh,
data seems to be that. Yep.
for sure.
And even
So
negative suicidal thoughts can occur.
yeah,
Heard.
and nobody tells you this. No one's going to tell you, like, hey, you could also get this too. No one's going to tell you that. All right. But like those
Mhm.
are services that are provided for you by the education system. Not gonna, no one's going to be like, here's all that you get or all
Mhm.
that you can get.
Mhm.
So that is also an option. But you're for sure entitled to speech services.
Right.
Okay. Then if you have speech services, you have IEP goals.
Mhm.
So there's a goal. The goals are monitored for progress. They have to have those goals monitored and things like that. And then you have to have an IEP once a year. And then every 3 years, you have to have a triannual IEP, which is a review of when the student gets reassessed to determine if they still qualify for special ed services. Now this is for different special ed. Now there's certain kids that are always going to be special ed services, and then there's other students who maybe have like a learning disability and they no longer qualify, or they miraculously no longer stutter. So then at that 3-year try, they no longer need an IEP. So now they got out of special ed services. But even if they get out, if a parent all of a sudden in a year from now wants them to get re-evaluated, all they need to do is contact the school district again in writing, has to be in writing, and then they have to send it to the school district and ask for a re-evaluation, and then that will happen. And then it takes some time. It doesn't happen like overnight. And then you'll have a re-evaluation, another meeting, and those things occur again. But it's a whole process that nobody knows. There's there's certain people that are obligated to come to your IEP meetings that a lot of people don't know about. There's a lot of paperwork. There's certain things that need to be in the IEP that a lot of parents don't know about. So it is a very exhausting, time-consuming, challenging. I can't even go into it. Like, I was talking to my mom the other day, and I'm like, I don't think this happened. I don't think that happened. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, because no one tells you. No one tells you. There's no handbook. Yeah. And it's pretty sad.
It is sad, but we're going to change this, Maura, with STARS. We're going to do the best we can.
Yes.
And we're proud to announce we're going to have Miles Ahead STARS, which is Maura's going to help through different PowerPoints and voiceovers, and please feel free to reach out to us through Stuttering Treatment and Research Society STARS. Maura's going to develop guides, and you already are, to help us with this, guides for parents and their children to navigate through the educational system really as information. That's why we exist as STARS, this nonprofit organization, all volunteer organization, to help fellow people who stutter and the parents, the grandparents. So many messages we get. We've been around for just over a year. Have been, what do I do to help my child? What do I do to help my grandparent? And Maura, I think with your knowledge base and your compassion, I think you already are a great resource for our stuttering community. And I look forward to this, for you to help us with that.
Thank you, Dr. McGuire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. So a couple of things, like, what do you hope to accomplish for parents? Like, what's the word you want to let parents know today when they see this? What's the hope you want to give them as you kind of wrap that up, you think?
Oh, man, the hope.
Well, the hope, maybe the opposite is that, well, first of all,
there is hope.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah, no, please.
There is hope for your child. I remember one time I was talking to my dad, and he said, there's been many nights that your mom and I would lay in bed and just try to figure out how we're going to help you and stuff. And I was just like, man, that stinks, no one was like, hey, have this little girl and, have it so it's really hard for her to talk and get made fun of and, stuff so. But at the end of the day, if I didn't stutter and didn't have a hard time, I wouldn't be me. So those challenges, all those hard times made me who I am. So as much as I hated them and still hate them and still despise them, it wouldn't make me who I am. So I'm very happy for them a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. There is people or there are people that are here to help, that they're not alone, and that we're not going to stand around and be quiet anymore. And, everyone's been so silent in stuttering, and that for the first time, we're finally going to be like, no, we're finally going to talk and stop being silent, and that there's hope for other people that stutter, and that we're going to finally have our voice be heard, which it hasn't been heard for a very long time.
Thank you, Maura. I think that's a great statement. And also for the parents to know that it's not about parenting. This is a neurologically based. I know a lot of people blame themselves, even people who stutter. I remember as a little boy growing up, every New Year's Eve, I'd say, okay, I'm like probably 6, 7. I'd say, okay, next New Year, I'm not going to stutter anymore. That would last maybe 5 minutes. Like, yeah, didn't work. I gotta wait for 1975 now, right? Maybe next year, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, but we know that it's in our brain. Hopefully, we can make it easier. Hopefully, there won't be. We want to diminish uh, when kids bully. That's tough. It's traumatizing for you.
It's very much so.
So we got to increase the world, and it still occurs in the workplace. I mean, you mentioned it. I've experienced it. You've experienced it.
Yeah.
Still there.
Appropriate communication, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
I have a communication disorder.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like,
It's like asking someone
okay,
to carry heavy boxes, and they can't. It's like you're asking me to do something that my brain isn't wired to do
and I'm
yet.
like, I'm sorry I don't use the correct words. I'm like, I'm happy any word came out of my mouth.
Mhm.
Like, and I know I don't always use the best vocabulary, because sometimes the vocabulary word I want to use, I know I can't say.
Yeah.
So I'll say a word that, yeah, probably doesn't sound the best, but it's easier for me to say. And yeah,
Mhm.
I do cuss because I use it as a filler
Mhm.
word, which, you and I have discussed a lot. I
Yeah.
do use fillers because I know if I say something before a word that I know is going to be a block, it makes it flow better. Or,
Yeah.
it flows. So if I say F dog,
Yeah.
I'll say F dog instead of then get dog out. So I'll say F dog,
Yeah. That's right.
and people are like, God, she cusses a lot. But I'm like, but you don't know. Like, I don't want
Mhm.
to be stuck on the dog. So
Mhm.
if I can say F dog, I'll F dog.
Right. And there's a recent case of an individual with Tourette's, and it was on the news where it just blurred out an expletive. I'm not saying that we people who study that sometimes happens with we do as we're learning more in our diagnostics that stuttering does share some similarities with Tourette's and with OCD and ADHD, and there could be some elements of this filler words or just things coming out, but we do have a higher rate of social anxiety and depression, and we want to change this. I
Yeah,
think
because
part
I
of that
don't
is
think
through
anyone cares about us the way they care about all the other ones.
well, we're going to change it, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I really do, because
But I
I
think we're
wish
going to
they
change it
did.
through knowledge and education. We've been misunderstood. People, it's not that big a deal. They just need to slow down. I'm like,
You tell me to slow down one more time.
no. So, more, we're going to have this section. I want people to listen in, to follow you. I think you are already a great resource
Oh
for
no, you are.
our, no, you are for our stuttering community, for the children you help, for the parents you help. And now we're going to do this on a broader for the essentially the whole world. We want the whole world to listen, to be guided by miles ahead stars for more to guide, to help be a resource for the parents and children for this. So um, I thank you so much, Maura, for joining us
Always.
today. This is not the last of Maura Miles. You're going to be helping us with stars tremendously, helping guide our parents. And students through the educational process, and also for your insights, even for adults, how to navigate the working world and others. I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, for everyone joining us today, if you do have a question or topic that you'd like us to cover, please feel free to get in touch with us. through our website, stutteringresearch.org. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and follow, and please rate our STARS podcast, STARS Speak, Understanding the Science of Stuttering. Help us reach more listeners and grow awareness around stuttering. And if you're a healthcare professional and want to learn more about stuttering and how to help your patients, please take advantage of our free continuing medical education credits, and other healthcare licensed individuals can receive credit as well. And we thank our joint sponsor for our credits, St. Louis University School of Medicine. I want to thank you for joining me today, Maura. I want to thank all of our listeners, and we'll see you next time on STARS Speak.